Mm. Good to have you on the podcast again. This time
Thanks,
on
Adam. Yeah,
video.
great to be back. Yeah, awesome.
No, you're welcome. It's good to have you on. And yeah, I just thought we said before we could talk about like kind of confidence,
Definitely.
kind of comfort zones and mindset, and like I was saying before, how we kind of sometimes lack confidence in certain areas, and kind of through certain situations you kind of like grow.
Yeah, yeah. Although that growth is also like sometimes quite painful. And I suppose what what I like to do in life is try and take away, the pain points that other people have. So for those of your listeners and viewers who don't know what I do, the brand, although it's not my day job, my brand is the academic pirate, and I specialize in making study easy, which is easy to say,
Mm.
but genuinely I do it. And I've developed some templates to help, structure essays and such like that, where people can really just follow what the military would call like a handrail through
Mm.
putting something together. Because when it comes to study, for the vast majority of people, essays, assignments, presentations, portfolios, dissertations, etc., they are real sources of pain. And the other source of pain really is that an awful lot of people aren't achieving their full potential in our society, let alone in others, merely because they don't have qualifications on paper, on the wall, that they can use to get access to a job or to get promotion above a certain level in a post. So that's a bigger pain point. And I work a lot with people in the military and from other backgrounds who are objectively super smart at what they do. They might have done it for a very long time, maybe 23, 25, sometimes 30 years. But after all of that military career, they've got some life left in them yet, but they don't have any academic qualifications. And I'm not one of those academics who thinks, "Ooh, academic study is great to do because it's awesome for, the body and mind and makes you a better person and all that." Obviously, that to some degree is true.
Mm. Mm.
But the bigger thing is, well, actually, it's very likely that unless you've got some other mojo, you're going to be held back in life. You're going to have limited options, and by extension, your kids are going to have limited options if you don't have some higher education. And I think what I'm really struck by, and it's definitely been something that I would never have believed if anyone had told me, probably, is there are hulking great soldiers who've done pretty courageous things, and there's other people who've flown a desk for 20 or 30 years, which is probably courageous in its own
Yeah.
way. But they are terrified of writing an essay, and I
Mm.
don't if they would use the word terrified as well. And these are the ones that I speak to. So there's the rest of the iceberg, and that's civilians as well, of course, of people who never come forward and sort of say, "I'm really terrified about this. How can you reassure me?" And that's a massive problem, I think. But it's one of these things where the word privilege really matters, because if you've been brought up in a situation where parents sort of say, essay, schmessay, it's just a load of words, where you answer the question and you tick all these boxes to make sure you've got stuff done. Yes, it's annoying to do it, but it's just how we happen to be judged as smart in our society, rightly or wrongly. That is so different to being told, "Oh, I was never any good at them. They're so difficult. You have to be a special person to come through those things." And it's really unfair that some of us can just ace an essay because we're not worried about it, and other people, and see it as a game perhaps, and other people will never go anywhere near an academic course, even though they are very likely to be smart, because they're full of all of the beliefs and the prejudices that we have about how difficult it must be and how special smart people must be, and that it's something that other people do, and it's something that you really need to kind of sweat and grind through. Whereas I'm much more of the, the hustle type approach. Actually, a lot of it is about showmanship, and, you can blag your way through bits you don't fully understand. It's all a bit of a game. Your lecturers are probably a bit of a schmuck anyway, etc., etc. And which is the reality. But, we were saying before we started recording how difficult it is to be confident if life is throwing you some curveballs. One or two are okay, but when there's 500, it gets really difficult smashing them all out of a park. And I think what I've learned through the through the whole lockdown thing and other bits of turbulence that life and work and everything, relationships throw at you, is really how fragile confidence can be, but how you can have like different confidences. So, the folk that I work with, in their professional lives, in their trade, so they've been a signaller or an engineer for 20, 30 years or something, in that part of their work, they are absolutely 100% confident. When it comes to them, let's say they play rugby or hockey or netball or something, they are going to be like giving it all on the court or the field or whatever. When it comes to the academic stuff, they are so vulnerable. And actually, I've just suddenly realized through talking to you this morning that kind of reflects where I am, that in some things I'm super, super confident. And then something happens and some of those sources of confidence just disappear. Some of them remain, like, you're still a confident kind of parent, and you still know the difference between, what your kids should be doing and what they shouldn't be doing. But other aspects can take a real hammering. And the other thing that always gets me is how things which are really small can have like a massive effect on you and your emotions and your wellness, which I know is something you're really keen on, helping people overcome those kind of problems. I've got back into running recently, and then, I go out for a run and I'm like 3/4 of the way around and I think, what on earth am I worried about that for? It is so insignificant. Or I'm worrying about a decision, and I'm like at a coffee shop or going out for a run or something, and then I suddenly think, it actually doesn't matter if I do nothing. I could do X, I could do Y, I could also do absolutely F all, and probably nothing would happen. So why do I even bother? But it's strange that we sort of, I'm conscious I'm rattling on here. Probably,
No.
You're helping me with my therapy today. But yeah, it's weird that we get like obsessed about something, and it has very negative effects, because you and I are both fans of Gary Vaynerchuk. So we know this happens, but we never do it the other way around. Well, I don't think we ever do it the other way around, where we kind of focus on a tiny thing that went really well and spend all day like basking in the glow of that amazing thing. So I helped pick someone up the other week who tripped over outside my daughter's school, and I happened to have not all superheroes wear capes. I happened to have a packet of plasters in my backpack. So I was able to reassure her no one had seen her, no one was laughing at her, everything was fine, and helped her put some plasters on her hand. But I didn't spend the rest of the day patting myself on the back. In fact, I don't even know if I told anyone, including my wife, for quite a few hours. But that was actually a much more interesting thing and impactful thing than little tiny things that I would easily spend all day stressing over. But why don't we do like the opposite of stress about something like that? It's weird.
No, I totally get what you said. I totally, with the fact of, there's those small things as well, like you said, how those small things can have like, massive kind of difference and impact. And like, why some, like you said, just getting, passes for, excuse me, Matt, for, getting the plasters for the lady and helping her. and that small thing can have like such a positive and massive impact, on like gratitude and like
Yeah,
making a difference
yeah,
to somebody and things like that. I think it's really important. I think like looking at the small things, and sometimes the small things pretty much big things in themselves. But I
yes,
think
that's right. Yeah,
we,
exactly.
we, we can
Yeah,
sometimes
yeah,
overlook them sometimes for whatever reason.
yeah.
Um, and I think like with what you said with the guys that you work with who are ex-military,
Mm,
and they've probably not written an essay for, like you said, probably 15, 20 years, or probably
yeah,
longer.
yeah, yeah,
And it's kind of like you said, with confidence, it's kind of like regaining that confidence, isn't it? Like I can definitely relate to that. I remember when I left school, I didn't do any kind of essays or education for a while, and
mm,
then when I reapplied for university, when I was deciding to go, I had
yeah.
to retake maths,
Oh
and I,
yeah,
and I
snap. Yeah,
to get a conditional
yeah,
offer, I
yeah.
had to get a grade C at least, minimum.
Oh,
So
same here.
I
I had to do that. I've been down that road, Adam. Yeah, it's
yeah,
a lot
and
of pressure.
yeah, and yeah, and I had bad experiences with some maths
Yeah,
teachers.
yeah, yeah,
I had
yeah,
rock bottom confidence in maths,
yeah.
and almost like anxiety, like a weird anxiety associated
Yes.
with it.
Oh, I'm with you there.
And I had to do my level one functional skills. Who was it with? Learn Direct at the time. I don't know if they're
Oh
still
yeah,
going.
yeah. I remember that. Yeah, yeah,
And I did my level one, got that, and then I did my level two.
yeah,
And I had like how long was it? I had about a month and a half to get this grade.
yeah.
And I took the test and I failed the first time, and then I took it again, and I think by the skin of my teeth I ended up passing and getting it, and I got my C. And
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
okay, I've got that, I'm done now.
yeah,
With my,
yeah,
but that whole kind of process, that's like one example. I had no confidence, and I had to
yeah,
um, kind of become friends with it in some weird way to kind of try and like it. And I think with people who with essays or any kind of form of education, it's so
mm,
important to kind of gain your confidence in it, because I think a lot of people, like you said, they've either done it, some people it comes naturally to them. Um,
yes, exactly.
and I
Yeah,
think, like you said, some people's families might push people into it, or they might just go
yeah,
with it. But the
yeah,
people who, like you said, who have, been in combat scenarios and they've done all these things,
yeah.
you kind of they probably do have to try and throw themselves into it and try and learn those kind of baby steps again, probably.
Yeah, exactly. And really, the bizarre thing is that, genuinely, academic study is easy as long as you forget everything that you've ever been told or that you've internalized about it culturally, as it were, since since zero, basically.
Mm,
Because we are programmed. Well, programmed isn't the right word, but I can't think of a better one. We are programmed, conditioned to think that academic people, lecturers and such like, are like really special, really
yeah,
intelligent people. Well, there are I don't know, let's say 150, 180 universities in the UK, let alone other places that are offering university
mm,
degrees that aren't universities, that are in partnership with unis. They can all be amazingly smart. I mean, it would just be like ridiculous to think
mm,
that. Um, and many of my colleagues in the sector are indeed obsessed with the idea of telling people that it's also difficult, and don't be
yeah,
surprised if you find the process of writing an essay horrible. It is horrible, etc., etc. And that actually is because probably they haven't realized that it's just a process.
yeah,
Yeah, there are some people who are, as it were, naturally gifted and find it super easy. But for everybody else, it should really just be seen
yeah,
as a process where you
yeah,
literally tick boxes about getting stuff done.
mm,
I'm gonna have to
mm.
pause for a second because my
Yeah,
dog,
yeah,
for
that's
some
fine.
reason,
Yeah, that's fine.
is
I've got
crazy
dogs.
about it. It's
Yeah,
clearly
no,
super
that's fine.
urgent.
Yeah,
But no,
it's fine. I've got
uh,
dogs as well. I
oh
know
right,
how
okay.
it is.
Oh, thanks for understanding. That's good. Um, Yeah, but it literally is a process, and you know, if you answer the question, if you tick all the requirements of the other elements of the assignment that you need to cover, you can't not do well.
Mm.
If the lecturer doesn't like you, and that's another thing that is problematic in the sector, is that although we pretend that grading and everything is objective, quite often it's super subjective. And if you criticize the beliefs or the approach or the opinions of a lecturer, often they will find ways, sadly, of marking you down to penalize you for having a different opinion. I don't mind if
Wow.
someone gets penalized for having a racist opinion. That's totally fine. We're not here
Yeah.
to tolerate intolerance. But if you happen to disagree with my political perspective, you know, it's not for me to mark you down. That's just
Mm.
ridiculous. But that happens a lot, and that's a huge blow to confidence, and very, very unfair. But you know, that all shakes out, and over time, hopefully, the sector will overcome those problems. But yeah, the bottom line is not everyone in the university who is a lecturer is actually very smart. A lot of them will have forced themselves through the processes of, you know, getting their A levels, getting their degree. They may have been really bad at it. And, you know,
Mm.
the amount of time that I hear my colleagues putting into education, or when they talk about when they did education, I'm like, this isn't for you. I mean,
Mm.
if you did your PhD and you found it really, really difficult, you were doing the wrong PhD. Obviously, if you were lassoing dolphins or something, then I get that physically that's really quite tricky, and dolphins are very difficult to find, and
Yeah.
that would be difficult. But most people aren't doing PhDs in capturing dolphins,
Mm.
and I don't think you should be lassoing them anyway. But yeah, if you're spending like 60 hours a week doing a PhD, you're doing something wrong.
Mm. Mm.
So when they are then telling other people, it's like, do you really want to do this? Because you're going to have to find 60 hours a week. And, you know, unless people find someone like me to listen to, and I'm quite a rare creature, they're going to think, oh my God, I'm going to have to find 60 hours a week. And people
Mm.
speak to me and I'm like, well, 6 hours would probably do it, and quite a lot of that time you can be on your sofa with your laptop watching, you know, binge watching The Handmaid's Tale or something, because why would you want to do something that was so horribly difficult?
Yeah.
Unless you're the sort of person who you know would go on a religious pilgrimage and, you know, walk 15
Mm.
miles on your knees until they're blooded bundles
Mm.
of bone and flesh. That's fine, but there's not many people like that.
Mm.
So, you know, writing an essay is not the biggest deal in the world. But obviously communicating that is incredibly difficult, because
Mm.
it's in a lot of people's interest to make out that it is really, really difficult, because that then
Yeah.
legitimizes the struggle that they've had. And, you know,
Yeah.
even if that's true, and often it isn't true, but even if it is true, it's like, you know, why doesn't someone ask them, why did you do it if it's so difficult?
Yeah.
You know, it's not an ultra marathon. You're not, you know, fell running up a 2,000 meter high mountain 8 times in a day.
Mm.
You're writing a few essays. Why was it so difficult,
Mm.
Doctor
Yeah.
Potterbook or whatever?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree, and I think like it's kind of probably breaking it down, isn't it, in the perspective of like why, you know, like why is it difficult? Um, you know, I remember for me, like educate, you know, like when I was going back into education and doing,
Mm,
cause I did you know, my coaching course and things like that,
yeah,
and I had to kind of like come up against my, you know, my insecurities around like learning again,
yeah,
and I think, I mean, for me personally, because one of my teachers, I won't name drop, certain PE teacher, I would give him, I work my arse off. I really love PE, and
yeah,
I would give him my essays. I would give him my coursework,
yeah.
and he'd be like looking at it, and he'd be like, "This isn't your work. This isn't your handwriting," and I'd have to redo it, and I just kind of like
Oh, wow.
got I kind of had frustration. I lost my kind of passion for it. And I kind of thought to myself, is there something wrong with me? Like, am I stupid kind of thing?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but I mean, there was a previous time where I'll go back a little bit. He had a kind of a bit of a chip on his shoulders with me.
Mm.
I had jogging bottoms when we was going to play football. I had no pockets, so I said to him, "Can you look after this money?" So he looked after it, and then after the lesson, I went back to the office where all the teachers were, and I said, "Oh, can I have my money back?" And he like flicked it, this pound coin. He like flicked it, and it went in the bin
Ooh.
in front of the teachers, and they all looked at me, and I looked at him, and I walked away, and he shouted me back, and I had to go in the bin in front of them and pick out this pound coin. And I think
Wow.
I think I told him to like fuck off.
Yeah.
But since that moment, every time I handed in coursework, he would always reject it, and he would always
Oof.
go, "Oh, this isn't your work." So my kind of like
Wow.
mentality around that was like, can't be bothered with learning. Am I not
Of
good at
course.
learning and these kind of
Absolutely.
things?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
that's kind of like what I had to work through personally. That was my kind of like side to it. But I think for other people,
Mm.
like you said, who might be in the military, haven't done a essay in a while.
Yeah.
What would you say is a way to kind of regain that confidence again? Like what ways help to get that confidence back?
Well, yeah, that's a really good question. I'm not sure I have a really good simple answer for it, but I think the bottom line of it, for the people that I work with at least, is them being able to have a conversation about it with me, and me being able to reassure them that
Yeah,
an essay is just a showcase of how you're responding to, let's say, a question. Sometimes it's not a question, but it's easier if we think
yeah,
of a question. And you've got to have some definitions, some references, some of your personal views. You've got to compare and contrast stuff, evaluate stuff. But it's basically, let's say it's a couple of thousand words. It's 10 paragraphs, an introduction and a conclusion. The introduction tells the reader what you're going to do and how you're going to meet all the criteria, and the conclusion reminds the reader that you did all those things. So psychologically, you're telling the reader, "Hey, I'm gonna do everything I'm required to do in this piece of work in the introduction." Then you define the key terms in the first paragraph, and then you go on and add further color and tick off other boxes as you go along. So there's a template I've developed that I was considering selling on Etsy, but then I thought, because certain people in my life
yeah,
who have some influence over it decided it was kind of inappropriate for me to be selling stuff. I thought, well,
mm-hmm.
actually, I'll just give it away. So I've got I think I've called it the Ruthless Assessment Planner, TRAP, or TRAP. So, it's the one trap you might want to fall into, which is on my website,
yeah,
www.theacademicpirate.com. There's nothing on there you have to pay for. And there's none of this like, this will help you with the first paragraph, but if you want help with the other 8
yeah.
or 9, you'll have to pay me $200. There's none of that going on. It's 100% free. But that just shows you really how you just build up the elements
Yeah.
of an essay. And also sort of gamify it,
Mm.
because so much of academic work or presentations that you do, if you're going for internal promotion in a business or whatever else, is about showmanship or
Mm.
showwomanship.
Mm.
And that really is what one is doing in essays as well. But you do need to have a view that it is kind of a game.
Mm.
And you need to perform that game to the best of your ability, setting aside the fact that there might be like confounding factors and embuggerances, like the horrible individual that you described, Adam,
Mm.
and they are out there. They do walk amongst us, and there's a lot of them. But leaving that to one side, it's about presenting a piece of work which makes it impossible for them to, at the very least, pass you well. I would say you don't want to scrape through, you want to pass well,
Mm.
and then if it's all possible, get the very, very highest grade. And it is incremental. And I think no one talks about this stuff, and I really don't know why. And it may just be because so many people write essays and get graded on them, and they do get there through sheer grit, determination, and hard work, but in a really inefficient way. Whereas the lesson I try to get across to people, and also to my kids when they are resenting doing any homework, is do what you need to do and no more, and do it well, and the chances are you'll do really well.
I
Whereas
like
if you
that.
spend like I don't X number of hours, we'll say 3 hours, struggling over I can't get started, well, do something else, because that 3 hours is of no value to you. It's hugely demoralizing. It will set you back. It will really hit your confidence. It will, God knows what it does to your neurochemistry, but it's not going to be great. I can't imagine that, if I sat down here and struggled over something for 3 hours and made no progress, that I would then feel like super happy and cheerful if I went out for lunch with my wife and kids or whatever. It's going to affect the
Yeah.
rest of my day and all those around me. Whereas if I just sort of say, it's not working today, yeah, I did set aside this morning or today to do whatever project, and it needn't be academic, but it's just for whatever reason, I don't know what it is, it's not working. I think we need to have the courage in society, and a lot of more progressive companies are doing this, where they say it's about the quality of your work, not the quantity of time you spend doing it. It's like, walk away. If you go off and if you're into fishing, do some fishing. Bird watching, do that. Fixing your car, do that. Walk the dogs, go for a run, lift some weights, whatever it is that takes you out of your that kind of a nasty
Comfort zone.
trap. Yeah,
Yeah.
and also sometimes out of your comfort zone. But of course, actually, you might not want to be out of your comfort zone if you've just done something that made you feel really weak and vulnerable. You might want to go back into a comfort zone, and maybe your comfort zone is, I know you've done some podcasts with people into martial arts and spirituality and stuff. Maybe it is to go and bash the hell out of a
Punch bag.
a punch bag, or one of those artificial human torso things that you you smash up or something, or go off and meditate, whatever works for you. But what you mustn't, I would say, I don't really say you must or mustn't very often, but I think what we mustn't do is sit there and keep on grinding away at it. We're not raindrops falling on a stone, but we're eventually gonna make a hole in that stone. The stone is gonna win, and we don't have time for our little raindrops to go through that stone. It's go off and do something else.
Yeah. No,
But it's so difficult because every fiber of your being is telling you, oh, it's going to come to me at the moment. If I find just one more article, or if I just like struggle, half an hour more, I'll solve it. And you probably won't.
Yeah.
And you'll feel. I don't know if this is an explicit rated podcast or not, but you'll feel
It's fine.
you'll feel really shit,
Yeah.
even if you do. It's not worth it.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, and I think like the world today is getting harder and harder, and there's more competition because there's people who've got experience and backgrounds. I've known it through applying for jobs, and 97% of the time you don't hear anything or you don't get it, but that 3 or 4%, you sometimes do kind of get an offer or an interview or something like that, and it's kind of like how do you stand out amongst the crowd, isn't it? And kind of whether that's your CV or your essay. And I think sometimes, like I've been there, I've spent hours trying to do something, and like you said, it isn't good for your mental health.
No, definitely not.
I think you kind of have to sometimes look at it from a third person point of view and be like, okay, how does it come across if you was the employer or if you was reading the essay, or give it to someone else to read. I think sometimes that helps as well. You can get feedback on it. That's what I've found. But yeah, it's very, very difficult, and I think there's no point beating yourself up over a piece of paper or a piece of work. because the more frustrated you get, you just can't think.
Exactly, that's right. And then your body releases so many stress hormones and other things that even if you were, potentially going to be able to solve the problem or get your presentation mapped out or whatever other target you set yourself, you
Mm,
can't now because your brain is full of all these, really unhelpful hormones.
yeah.
And that's something I found. I get, caught up in, a lot of, I think I know by nature, I'm a
Yeah.
very overthinking, anxious type of character.
Mm,
And you need to realize, or I'm beginning to learn, that you need to realize when those cycles are beginning to
mm,
actually step out of them because they're so unhelpful.
mm,
And but it's very difficult, especially with kind of emails and stuff. I find as well when
mm,
you can be feeling really upbeat about stuff, really confident, have your day all planned out in your head, which is a mixture of work and
mm,
well-being and exercise and this responsibility, that responsibility, and then you'll get an email from a line manager, and it's like everything just falls apart. But actually, I could have stuck to the advice I dole out to others, which is look at your emails in the same way as people looked at the post in 1920 or something, which is there were two deliveries a day, and you just quickly went through what was in your post box, and that was it. You didn't look at
yeah.
it constantly, which is a lesson I keep forgetting. And the other
Mm,
thing is, well, the next element of that is, do I need to look at my emails every single day? Probably not. And even if I do I need to give everyone the same level of priority?
mm,
Is something my line manager asks me or tells me more important than a student who needs a call from me to help them to maintain their confidence and such like? And the
mm,
answer is no, it absolutely isn't.
yeah.
Um, and the problem is, much as I would like others to think like you, me, and probably all of
Mm, mm,
your podcast subscribers do, there's a lot of people out there who are totally thoughtless about their actions,
yeah.
and their actions have emotional and other consequences on us who are fundamentally good people,
Mm,
and they either don't know or don't care. And that, I
mm,
think that's hugely problematic, um,
yeah.
because it's not that we, with our obsession about mental wellness and so on, mental health, mental well-being, are overreacting to things. It's actually that oftentimes many people are creating things that we have to become resilient to, that actually we shouldn't be being bothered by,
Mm,
because
yeah.
the wrong people are rising to positions of leadership and management
Mm, mm,
and such like. But yeah.
yeah. No, I agree with you. I think that's a really good point. And yeah, I think once those kind of people get into a position of power or responsibility, I think it can be quite dangerous sometimes if they're not kind of thinking about their actions or the impact of it as well. Are you okay for time? I know you said your
Yeah,
daughter
I've got
met.
to go to end part
Yeah,
one, Adam. But
yeah,
before I
yeah,
do,
yeah. Well,
I just say that there are some amazing companies out there, and Netflix
mm,
is one that springs to mind, and their approach to people like that is, even if someone is performing really, really well from a business point of view, so meeting all their metrics, and they could be smashing those metrics out of the park, so they could be exceeding sales targets by 300%. That these progressive, smart, emotionally intelligent companies are actually saying, what damage though might that, if that individual is also doing a lot of damage to a team around them, their
mm,
individual success is irrelevant. Because John could be smashing his sales targets by 300%, but if Kelly, Megan, Mills, Adam, Darshana and Bob are all suffering intolerably, and their targets are not being met because of the action of this amazing sales superhero, then actually we need to get rid of the superhero, because he's doing so much damage, which is going to be in the medium to long term detrimental to the business. So, I mean, I think that's incredibly brave and incredibly good, but very difficult to fit into a company that doesn't have that sort of culture that's been built from the ground up. But yeah, I think next time we should probably talk about more positive things. I'm conscious that I've laboured a bit on negative things there.
No. But I mean, it's like contrast to the two. Like, I'm open for my podcast. So it kind of ties into confidence and mindset, and it's that that there's that black and there's that white kind of thing. There's that balance of and I'm open for my podcast to talk about different things. I'm completely fine with that. I think it's important to talk.
Thank you.
I think it's important to talk about the things that we've been talking about, and I can completely relate to it because I've been there. I've lacked confidence and
me too.
Essays and
Okay, well let's pick that up in part 2 and try and give people some value in positivity, and I'll try and think of some more examples that are positive.
No, sweet. I look forward.
Brilliant.
I look forward to it. But it's been a pleasure to talk to you again, and as well, like where people can find you on social media content. I'll put your links in.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, but if anyone Googles for the Academic Pirate, they'll find me, and I'm on LinkedIn as Dr. Million, Milyan, Cornish name, Hills or Mills. So please reach out to me. If you let me know that you heard me through Adam's amazing podcast, then I will definitely accept. And any help I can give to anyone, time permitting, I'll absolutely be there for you.
No, awesome, Mills. It sounds great. And
thanks, Adam. All right, we'll catch up hopefully tomorrow, then.
Yeah, sure. Awesome.
All right, see you soon.
Yeah, take it easy.
Bye.
Cheers.